Welcome to Pawfectly Unleashed, a podcast where four friends talk about dogma life, mental health, and everything in between. So this week we're going to start off our mental health check-in on the scale of Pandora to Spotify. Alexis, where are you at today?
I'm probably like Amazon Music. I would say I was at Spotify, but my day I feel like is going down a little bit. So
Amazon Music is under Spotify.
Yeah.
But not quite Pandora.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Nikki, what are you?
I'm pretty Spotify. It's a pretty good day. I spent the morning with my family at brunch at my parents' country club. It hurt to say that out loud. But they had the Easter bunny. We had the kids with us. Not my kids, my nieces and nephew. And we just got to spend some family time together, which was really nice. It rained all day yesterday here. It's now sunny. So yeah, the mood is shifting. Britt, what about you?
I'm feeling very Spotify this week. Caroline, what about you?
I'm also feeling Spotify. I am recovering from a concussion and I finally feel a little bit more like a human. And I just had Skylar's third birthday party yesterday. And so today has just been a relaxing day, just hanging out. And so I feel great.
Really glad that you're feeling better from that concussion.
Me too.
Was pretty nervous for a little bit there.
We all were.
Yeah.
Literally.
On this week's episode, we're going to talk about dog reactivity, our journeys with it, our experiences, but we do want to just start off with a disclaimer of we are not trainers. So everything that we're talking about in this episode is our own experience and what has worked for us.
So for me, I don't really share much about the reactivity with my dogs. But Skylar is my most reactive dog. She is not so much reactive outdoors. I mean, she is, but it's more so indoors. She's really bad inside. If there's a foreign noise, she is barking and like cannot settle. And it's not just like barking and like that kind of reaction. It's like she will not settle. Like she will be pacing the entire house. She will be like bugging the other dogs. If a dog bugs her, she's like, do not come near me. Like she's just so on edge. It could be a school bus. It could be a car pulling up, a door closing outside. Like literally anything will set her off if it's not something inside the house. And so it's been a challenge because when I first got her, I didn't know what reactivity was. I was just like, my dog barks. I had a dog that barked earlier. Like it's a normal thing, you know? And outdoors, I don't go out much. And so when she does go out, she's not very well trained to be like in public, which is 100% on me. So I don't think it's like as much as reactivity outdoors. It's more so just like unfamiliar. And she just wants to like know what's going on around her. I've been working on like just trying to redirect her attention when we're inside and she does have those moments because like I said, I didn't know for like the longest time that's what it was. So now that I'm like learning and educating myself more on how to help her, it's been a long journey and it will be a long journey of trying to help her. But we have made some progress on being able to distract her. She's not food motivated. And so like trying to distract her or redirect her attention with food does not work. So we're trying to find something that's like really high value for her and something that she can like be really excited about. As she's gotten older though, I've realized she has settled more and like is not so alert. But anytime there's something new, I've found that her crate is like a really helpful place for her to be. So she's not as reactive. But yeah, it's a journey, and I know all of y'all can agree.
Definitely. Skylar and I can relate, or I can relate to Skylar in the fact that I also get overstimulated when I go outside with lots of
Me too.
Noises and things and people.
Mm-hmm.
She would not do well as a city dog for sure.
No, definitely not.
I think with Ella, she's her reactivity is more like dog selective. She likes particular dogs. Like she, for the most part, she gets completely along with Buster and Hudson, but it's very selective, and it's more females that she doesn't like than males. But at the same time, she has gotten along with females, and she's not gotten along with males. So for her, nervous trying to figure out the best way, because if a dog fight happens, that's like worst case scenario. So trying to figure out how to avoid a dog fight is hard when you have a dog who's dog selective. It is possible. It's just a hard go on. And to be quite frank with you, Ella doesn't really like to go places. She'd much rather sit on my bed and do nothing. Like that's her happy place. So my boys get along with anybody and everybody. So they're the ones that go out, and I just let. Ella's the queen bee. She does what she wants, basically.
As she should.
She tells you what she wants.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Ivy used to do. So when I adopted Ivy, she was dog aggressive. She had severe resource guarding issues with food. Her reactivity was not anything that I've ever experienced before. So with Ivy, I kind of outsourced with a trainer. Like we got over her dog aggression with my dogs. We got over her resource guarding, and I just could not tackle reactivity because, like I said, it's not something that I was familiar with. So I didn't even know how to go about it. So we went the trainer route, and honestly, her outside is 10 times better than when I first started. She actually is the best walker out of all of my dogs. Like,
I love that. Go Ivy.
Like, sorry. Okay. Yeah, she's doesn't pull on the leash. She's right by your side. Awesome. We've gotten really good at redirecting when we're outside and we're seeing like her triggers. We went from dog aggressive to dog selective. Hold on. I don't know what's happening. Why does my voice sound like this? Let's try that again. So we went from dog aggressive to dog selective, which I don't really know if people know that there's a difference to that. And I think that's where her reactivity kind of comes from, because she doesn't like all dogs, which is perfectly fine. I don't like all humans. My dog doesn't have to like all dogs.
I also don't like all dogs. So there's that.
True. And now we're working on her reactivity inside. Like Skylar, Ivy has similar issues. Like she paces a lot. She doesn't really settle. Whenever somebody's on our property, she like lunges at the windows and like does like parkour off my my front door. And we're honestly nervous that one day she's going to push open our window and get out, because that's how much strength or like force she's hitting these windows with. I'm like, let's put up a gate because I'm nervous. So that's a little bit about Ivy.
Toad is similar. We actually didn't realize that Toad had any reactivity or dog selectivity or dog aggression when he first entered our home. He and Ziggy met. They got along great. They immediately started playing. It was wonderful. We were only supposed to short-term foster him. So we did a quick dog meet and then let them coexist, because he was a puppy. He was about 3 months. So easier to integrate at that age than an older age. So we did a quick dog meet, and then it went well. So we kind of let them hang out with drag leashes. And we didn't realize that there was any type of reactivity until we brought him to the park. Vaccines weren't confirmed, so we kept him on a blanket. And a giant dog came running toward us that he was off leash. This park is supposed to be leashed. I have feelings about that. But Toad barked, lunged, growled. I mean, the whole nine. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for telling me about your big feelings. Training starts right now. So I didn't have experience with a reactive dog in that way. I would argue that Ziggy was also reactive when he was a puppy, but in a very friendly, I want to meet everyone way. He wanted every human to pet him. He wanted to engage with every dog. I didn't know better at the time, so I did let on-leash greetings happen, and anyone that wanted to pet him could pet him. And we kind of have had to do a lot of work on the back end to reverse what happened there. Correct. Because we live in the city. We see a lot of people. We see a lot of dogs. He started to think every person and every dog was going to interact with him. And that's just not going to give you a neutral dog in the long run. So once we identified that that was a problem, we started doing training to reverse that. But Toad's reactivity seems to stem from being on a leash. He does not like leashed greetings, but he does wonderfully off leash for the most part. Now, he is selective. He is interesting in the fact that he's fine if he enters a place where there's other dogs off leash and they're already there. But any new dogs that come in, he has a problem with. And not everyone. He definitely very much has a type. I'm not going to share what the type is because I don't want anyone to get offended. But he very much has a type of dogs that he doesn't jive with, and he lets us know right away. We have come a very long way from I'm going to lead with my teeth to I'm going to look at this trigger for a couple seconds, maybe longer than a couple seconds, and then I'm going to go back to mom because I know that she has the good treats in her pouch, and I'm going to get rewarded for not growling, lunging, barking. But this was a whole different world for us. And we have had to do a lot of things, make a lot of changes in our lives to accommodate this. Fully worth it. Mm-hmm. But it's been an eventful couple months, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think also my point of view for reactivity is something you just learn to kind of live with it. It never fully goes away. Mm-hmm. I have never heard one story, and correct me if I'm wrong, drop it in our comments, come DM us, send us messages. I would love to hear your stories. I have not come across one reactive dog that is 100% not reactive anymore. Mm-hmm. So like how I was saying with Ivy, she's great on like leash, but sometimes she gets triggered, yeah. But Same. I also do a very good job at when I am walking her. Like I have a dog radar that's insane. And if I see a dog coming to us, I will cross the street and we'll like go a different block. We'll do something like I kind of try to avoid her triggers at all cost because I don't want to set her off. Like we did so great. And sometimes there are dogs that cross us across the street because they're coming out of their house or something that I can't avoid. There's nothing that I can avoid. She'll lock and then I'll give her a quick little like Ivy and she'll look back at me and then I kind of hype her up and we do like a little skip down the block just to give her that like, oh, good girl. Like, this is great. And then her little stub is like, oh, this is awesome. I'm like, oh, she's also not very food motivated outside. She's like, you have meat? I don't want that. Like, that's great, but no. You have sausages? At home, I'll eat the sausages. Outside, absolutely
Sky.
not.
That's Sky. But I think you said something really important is like learning your dog's triggers and being able to be on top of it before it happens. And like with Sky, I know that one of her triggers is a school bus because it comes and then when they back up and it's like the beeping, that is what sets her off. It's not necessarily they're in the neighborhood, it's the beeping that she doesn't know where it's coming from. And she will get on the couch, look outside, and she doesn't like see anything. So that freaks you out even more. And so I've been like starting because I know that they come at a certain time every single day. And 3 of them come in our neighborhood, 2 or 3. I don't know now. 2 or 3. And so every time before I know they're coming, I will sit on the ground with her and I'll start playing with her so that she doesn't realize that there is a school bus outside. So she doesn't get triggered.
I love that.
And so I think it's really important to like learn your dog and learn the trigger and be able to assist them through it. Because like, like Britt said, it's not going to fully go away, but learning how to make it easier for them and just for the way of life. Because, if Skylar freaks out, then Chemo and Sora are freaking out too. And they're like, what's going on?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And then they're all worked up. And then Chemo and Sora can calm down, but Skylar's not. Like, she cannot settle for a good while after she's triggered. And so it's just like learning how to live with it, learning how to make the household a better place, learning how to make their lives a better place, because they get anxious, like Skylar is reacting to something, but then she's anxious afterwards. And it's like, I don't want her to have to deal with that when I'm like, I'm trying to reason with you. Like, I know you don't understand that it's just a school bus. Like, you're fine. You're good. It's not coming to get you. If something comes onto our property, she's like, absolutely not. And so it's just learning how to work with them and help direct them and like just positive reinforcement, and just being patient with them.
Yeah, learning your dog is huge. And I think that people probably have opinions about us allowing Toad to be in environments where he's off leash with other dogs. And I completely understand that. The reason that we have done the training and the work that we have done in the way that we have done it is because he is dog selective, but he loves being with dogs. He wants to initiate play. He wants to engage with other dogs in an appropriate way, but I just don't think he knew how to do it appropriately. So his background, from what we know, is that he was attacked in the home that he used to live in and then got pneumonia and a bruised lung. So that's why he was surrendered, because they couldn't handle that care, and he got turned over to the rescue. So, I am not a trainer. I'm not a dog behaviorist. I don't truly know if this is what is happening, but from knowing him and observing him over the last 8 or 9 months, however long it's been, he didn't understand other dog body language. He didn't understand checks and balances. He didn't understand that it's okay for another dog to kind of say, no, thank you right now. Or it's okay for other dogs to kind of not be confident and also be a little bit timid and scared. And again, I wasn't there when everything happened, so I don't know how it went down, but it just seems like he needed to learn how to dog. And he needed to learn how to read dog language. So by having him in a place, we went to one specific place that has kind of separate areas that you can be in, separated by chain link fence. And we would let him be on one side of the fence with Ziggy and let the other dogs be on the other side of the fence. And he would have greetings through the fence. And there were some days that it would be great. And there were some days that he wouldn't drive with a couple of the dogs on the other side. Once he had met every dog on the other side of the fence, and if it went well, we then let him go engage with those dogs without the fence in between. And it wasn't a 1-day thing. It wasn't a 2-day thing. It was a weeks and months long before he was able to cross that barrier. But that's how we realized, that's how we started to see, is this something that you really want to do? Because Ziggy loves to play with other dogs. He loves to be in those environments. And we wanted to allow Toad to do that too, if it was something that he enjoyed. Had this been a significant trigger, his hackles were up all the time, he was stressed out, he was showing signs of not enjoying what was going on, we would have never continued training in the way that we did. We would have shifted to some type of training of dealing with the trigger when it happens, but not being proactive about how you can be in this environment. So I'm very thankful for that place that allowed us to do this. They have staff there that was very helpful. There were maybe 3 to 5 dogs at a time there with us as well. And Toad is much more comfortable when Ziggy is around also. So that was a buffer as well. And Ziggy is completely fine on his own. He'll just remove himself from the situation and go lay under a chair. And but I think it's important to really hammer home that you cannot change the dog that you have in front of you if that's not their thing. So like bringing Skylar to a city and forcing her to do that probably wouldn't work out because she doesn't want to do that. You know, I know that Ivy used to go on walks in the middle of the night because that was the best thing for her. And I'm so thankful that she doesn't have to do that anymore. But
me too.
We do the best for our dogs, and I wanted him to really have the life that he deserved, and engaging with other dogs is something that he wants to do. So we're gonna work to let him do it.
And you're doing it smart. Like you're doing it very smart. And I think it's also important to say that there's different levels of reactivity. So like how you started it and you're like, well, I'm sure that people are going to be upset this way. Just because Toad is reactive does not mean that he can't be around other dogs. Like he's a different level. Like Ivy, the only dog that she's ever been around is Chance. That's the only dog that's been in our household that she's been around. And it's because the minute that she's had enough, she goes in the bedroom and he leaves her alone.
Yeah.
Like she will take herself away and like he kind of reads the room and is like, all right, you don't want to play anymore. We're not going to play anymore. So like, I don't think that I could ever do with her what you do with Toad. And that's perfectly okay. She's perfectly fine. She has her 3 siblings. She's living the best life.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, I adopted Ivy at, they don't know if she was 3 or 4, but she's 3 or 4. I've had her for a year. And I mean, she's made a lot of progress, but this is our life now. And we just make it work. We just figure it out. She's a great dog.
Say, I think Toad's age plays a huge part in why we are able to make the progress that we are. He was 3 months, 4 months when we started this training. He was still very much a sponge, very much learning. Arguably, maybe should have still been learning from his mom at that time. Definitely helps that we had another dog in the home that could help teach him things, but I definitely think that if he landed somewhere and was an only dog with someone that noticed the reactivity and didn't start doing like desensitization and things like that, the older he gets, the harder it is, in my opinion, to change the behaviors. I mean, I'm noticing that with Ziggy, and he's not reactive in the same way, but it's so much harder to train him as a 3-year-old dog than it is as a 4-month-old puppy.
See, like Toad's, you could really see the improvement of Toad, and you've only been working with him for how long?
Maybe 8 months.
So Ivy's only been able to go on day walks. And when I say like able to go, she would refuse. Like the sun would be up and she'd be like, absolutely not. I'm not going outside. So like Ivy is very good with making it known with what she wants to do and like when she wants to do it. Sun would be up. I'm like, let's go for a walk. And she would just be like, not today. Absolutely not. Sun's out. People are out. Dogs are out. No, thank you. We started working with her. I brought her home November of 22, which was a few months after we got Quinn. And we only started to be able to do day walks, a month ago? So we're in 2024. What month are we in? We're in March. So what comes before March? February. So I got her November of 22. We've only been able to get that like progress of her actually wanting to go for walks during the day, February 2024. So like if you
but that progress is huge.
Yeah,
it is 100%. We would definitely put the work in. So like our listeners listening to us with reactive dogs, every dog has their own time period or like their time scale or however you want to word that. So just because it took me 2 years with Ivy, or a little over 2 years with Ivy, to get her to be able to do day walks, and Nikki had 8 months with Toad with his reactivity, everybody does their own growth on their own time. So don't ever compare your reactive story with others. And I feel like we kind of, as humans, we do that a lot.
And don't give up.
We like, well, your dog's good. It's so rewarding, like seeing them grow. You're like, oh, look at that. I'm sure when the buses pass, right, and she's not reacting, Skylar's not reacting, I'm sure you're like, wow, this is a big win right here.
It's a win. Yeah, it's a win. And it's like we definitely get really excited about it. And I, work all the dogs up because it's like, let's, be excited about this, which
party.
Skylar's like, I don't know what we're excited for because I didn't hear it. But I'm like, we did it. But mine is very similar to where Nikki was at with Ziggy and Toad, because Skylar will be 3 on Wednesday. Cry about that later. And Sora is 4 or 5 months. And so with her, it's like, okay, let's start early. Like I'm seeing some areas where she might be a little bit reactive, or she has a tendency to be terrified of other dogs barking if she's outside, but if she's inside and hears a dog barking, she barks back. So it's like, okay, we're like starting to work on that. And I've even noticed we've had her for almost a month now, which is crazy. I've noticed in the month we've had her, I know, that she has made huge improvements. And, it's been a month. And so it's like, okay, I get frustrated sometimes with Skylar because I'm like, I just had this huge win. And then I feel like when I go back to Skylar, it's like, okay, now we're taking a step back. But it's like, you have to be so patient with them and understanding, and knowing you have 2 completely different dogs. And I'm sure we'll get into this more in a later episode when we talk about having multiple dogs in one house. But for like this specific thing, it's easy to get frustrated when you're wanting a result because you just got one out of another dog and you're wanting another result out of a different dog. And it's a humbling and good reminder to be patient and work at their timing and meet them where they're at. Because if you're trying to get them to meet you where you're at, chances are you're going to force them to do something that they are not comfortable with or that they can't do, so then they get frustrated, and it could just be like an all-around frustrating situation.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest lessons I have learned with Skylar and now with Sora is patience is key and meet them where they're at. Those are like the two big takeaways that I've been trying to adapt to.
I think a story I have from Ella that how her, so I don't know if I've talked about the backstory of her, but I got her at 7 months old. She was on a chain outside for the first 7 months. The people who had her before me basically just went out there to feed her. So she didn't have very much human interaction, other dog interaction, none of that. Which also she is, I always say is when you get past, like if you help them be less reactive and you feel like they're getting better, you want to say, yeah, anyway. She was very, very, very reactive to men. I mean, when we first got her, I had my internet hooked up and a man walked in here. I thought she was going to come through the front door on him. Like, I didn't know that was even a thing because she was fine with everybody else in the house, but the strange man walked in and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on.
I mean, same though, Ella. I don't want strange men walking into my house either.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Now on the flip side of it, so my best friend's husband, he's like 6'2", bigger guy, beard, like big brawly man. Will crawl up in his lap and lay there. And I'm just like, how'd that happen? Like, when I didn't even help train her out of that reactivity by, I think, just bringing people over and then being nice. And she just eventually got better at it. And so it's just, it makes your heart feel good when you see your dog doing something that she used to never, ever, ever be able to do.
For sure.
And it's also changed. So my family, we're all dog people. Everyone brings their dogs when we go places. Dogs come, everybody plays, everybody hangs out. My uncle's dog is a reactive dog, and Ella's a reactive dog. They're both females. They're both very dominant females. He brought her to my house one time. We were having a pool party, everybody's swimming, having a good time. Looked away for 1 second. They're in a bundle, flopping around, fighting. And my uncle's like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, well, we break them up. And he's like, well, they need to, like, it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
And just automatically say, hey, they like each other. I'm like, no, I'm going to put Ella inside. You take your dog to your house. Like, they need a break. They just got in a fight for 15 minutes. They need a break. So we've tried probably about 20 times to introduce them back to each other. Every time they don't. So now when he's like, can I bring Dixie? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's my dog's house. I'm not going to bring Ella to your house. So they just don't like each other at this point. And that's okay too. If there's a dog that your dog specifically puts their foot down on, saying absolutely not, can't handle it multiple times, more than likely your dog just decided they didn't like them, and that's okay.
And that's fine.
That's okay.
It kind of circles back to your dog doesn't need to be friends with all dogs.
Yeah.
Your dog does not need to like all dogs, and that's perfectly fine.
Your dog doesn't even need to have other dog friends at all to live a fulfilled life. Now, you need to do other things to make sure that their needs are met, but they do not have
take them hiking, take them to the beach to play. They do not have to have things you could do with your dog.
Doggy dates. That is not, it's cute. It is not a need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that we have had to change since integrating Toad into our lives, meaning being more aware of surroundings when I'm walking them. So I'm not on my phone when I'm walking the dogs. I might pull my phone out and take a clip of them walking because I am the person that I am. But that's after I have scanned in front of me, next to me, behind me, and I'm in the middle of a block. So I know that as long as my head is forward, the only thing that I could potentially run into is a dog coming out of their house, and my eyes are up so I can see that. I never leave the house without high value treats. I keep an extra bag of high value treats in the car just in case we find ourselves somewhere that the dogs need to get out of the car and I am without my treat pouch. I'm always looking for a training opportunity when we're out because we want Toad to be able to be a neutral little doggy. I bring him to places that there are dogs. I bring him to a park that has a dog park and we sit outside of the dog park. We don't go in. Well, we'll go in sometimes if it's empty, but we sit outside of the dog park and while the dogs are barking and he can see them, and there are a lot of reactive dogs that go to this park, I have him, this is new, I now have him sit between my legs and just observe things. And every time he looks at me, he gets a treat. Every time he engages with me, he gets a treat. Ziggy also is benefiting from this. He's really bad at doing nothing. So this is wonderful training for him. He's great at doing nothing inside. He wants to sleep all the time when he's inside the house. The moment that he steps foot outside, he thinks that if we are sitting somewhere or even standing somewhere, that he deserves treats. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. Like you can get rewarded, but you need to be quiet. I'd like you to be in a sit. This is just a weird thing about Ziggy, but it took a really long time to train down for him. And I realized that it's because he doesn't like to go down on any surface that's not warm. So if the surface is cold or a little bit wet, it's a no for him. So outside of the house, any down is probably not going to happen. He'll give me a sit though, and I'll take that. But things that I never thought that I would have to think about when I'm leaving the house. Do I have keys that I can jingle to kind of ward off another dog that's coming? Do I have an extra leash should I need it? Do I have my treat pouch? Like you think of phone, keys, wallet, I'm out the door. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of high value treats, something to break up a dog fight, like those kinds of things that now I've never really needed the other stuff, which is wonderful. But
well, to be fair, I think that everybody should carry something on them to break up a dog fight, regardless if your dog is reactive or not, because there are people out here that have their dog aggressive dogs or reactive dogs off leash and just letting them do whatever they want. I've gotten bitten by one. And humans, you gotta love humans.
Yeah. There's one that lives on my street that walks itself. I wish I was joking. I found the owner and was like, nice. Hey, your dog's outside. And this dog is aggressive. It is mean. It taunts my dogs. It knows where we live and comes to my window and will bark at my window until my dogs go to the window to taunt them. They'll ignore it now, which is wonderful. But for the first couple months that we had Toad, it was a hot mess. It's a tiny dog. I hate it. This is one of the dogs that I don't like. But I went to the family and said, hey, your dog's outside. I don't know if you know that your dog's outside, but I don't want it to get hit by a car, whatever. And the man that lives there said, oh, no, it's fine. They know where we live. And I can't remember if it's a boy or a girl. So essentially, the dog knows where we live and they walk themselves all the time. And I was like, okay, well, if your dog is going to lunge, bark, growl, show teeth, and like try and come up to mine, I can't be responsible for what happens. Like, I can't.
That's so weird.
It's so weird. I mean, welcome to the city.
People in the city are wild. I don't know if you know this. They are absolutely wild. And I have a little dog up the block that the woman just comes outside and the dog has free range of the entire block. And I'm like, Ivy's going to eat this dog one day. Right. It's going to happen.
And they don't
we have the same situation. We have a little dog. Well, we have two dogs now. I don't know where the second one came from. It just appeared, but it lives somewhere in our neighborhood. And our neighborhood's very small. I'm not going to give too many details away because I'm very private about where I live. But we have like a street of houses. So it's not really a neighborhood. It's just like some people that live out here. And there's one dog that just appeared. And then one dog that when we moved in, the owner of this dog / house, she came over to meet us when we moved in. And she basically was like boasting and like talking about how funny it was that her little dog would run to each house and like get fed or say hi. And I'm like, I don't want
That's
your dog
weird.
to come say hi.
Yeah.
And then, every
That's
time the dog
weird.
comes out, Sky's in the house, freaking out, barking, losing her mind because she has like a little sliver of the window to look out. And every time I fix it, she opens it. I don't know how she does that, but she freaks out when their little dog is on our property. And it happens once a day.
It
That
shouldn't be
little
on
dog.
your property, though.
I know.
So
And it's like a thing. It's just a normal thing. Everyone's just accepted it. And I'm like, get your dog. Like, no one wants it here.
I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want it on my property. Like, I didn't
here
say
we
yes to
have
this.
zero leash laws. So
That's
not
so
a,
interesting to me.
not a
Really?
single dog legally in my state, or maybe it's my county, has to be leashed.
I'm mind blown.
Yeah, that's wild.
So we have so many stray dogs. Well, they're not strays. They have homes. They just wander away from their homes. I've gotten a basset hound. I've had a pit bull. I've had a lab. Probably
That's
15,
crazy.
20 dogs come here.
How are
6
You had a
acres
Frenchie the
by
other
here.
day.
Yep, we had a Frenchie. So I literally live on 6 acres, and these dogs just magically wander up here. Thankfully, majority of the time, my dogs are inside. They just really pretty much go out to potty like everybody else's couch potatoes. But if Ella was outside and one of these dogs came up on the property,
yeah, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dog would leave, unfortunately, alive. When the owners come, I'm like, can you make sure your dog stays on your property? So some of the things that I think I've learned the most of since having a dog who is reactive is the difference between a dog being reactive and a dog being selective. Because I guess Ella would be more dog selective than she is dog reactive. Because she likes some dogs, she doesn't like some dogs. So she's got to feel it out and see how it is. And I've also learned basically how to just change my life to be able to fit her needs. So if we're going to go somewhere that I know there's going to be a bunch of dogs, she's probably not going because she's going to get overwhelmed from that and it's just going to be too much. So I think that's pretty much what I've learned for having a dog who's reactive selective. I think it's different for every dog and owner. It's just whatever your dog level of reactivity is, that's okay. And we all learn from that.
I think my biggest lesson has been with myself and not really with Skylar. I have definitely learned a lot about reactivity and what that means, what that looks like. And learning from other people with their dogs is really important, but also not comparing our journey with someone else's journey. And, you hear these success stories and it's all super exciting. And then you kind of come back to reality and you're like, well, I don't have that same success, or I didn't, meet that mark within this time frame, or, whatever it might be. And so I think the biggest thing I have learned is, I touched on it earlier, is just like being patient and meeting their needs and meeting them where they're at. But also just doing what's best for my dog and making sure she's happy and she's fulfilled. And I don't want to see her anxious. I don't want to see her terrified that there's another dog on my property. I don't want, that's not fun for her. Just as it's not fun to hear a dog barking for consecutively 20 minutes. It's not fun for anybody. And so just being patient and trying to meet her where she's at, but also just making sure that she's happy and trying to help coach her and guide her, because she can't guide herself. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just seeing something that she doesn't like and she's reacting to it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like several of the biggest things that I've learned in our reactivity journey. And I think it's really important to not compare your journey with somebody else's, but it's important to take notes from other people, and advice or learning, educating yourself with other people's journeys is very helpful. Just being careful not to compare.
I definitely agree with those. Honestly, with Ivy being reactive, I think she made me a better teacher, if that makes sense. I don't want to say like a trainer, because I'm not a trainer by any means, but she's made me a better owner. So like, I've gotten really good at communicating with my dogs, meaning like reading their body language, understanding when enough is enough, or if they're not into doing whatever it is that we're doing today. Like, I got very good at being in tune with their feelings as well as they're in tune with mine. I've learned no is a full sentence. I've learned advocating is something that you need to do. I never had to do that with Simon and Tyson. I never did that before. I didn't even do it with Quinn when she was little, or younger, should I say. Ivy definitely taught me to speak up. Not everybody needs to pet your dog. Not everybody needs to come into your space. Not everybody should have access to your dog. So, I mean, there's a lot more lessons there. Those are just the ones that are coming to mind. And I'm very grateful for Ivy.
I love those.
I have a little bit of a hot take with my lessons. I am happy that we adopted a dog with reactivity. I think that it has changed the way that we are dog parents in such a positive way. I talked a little bit before about how I didn't even recognize that Ziggy was reactive when he was younger, and that's on me. I probably should have done a lot more research on dogs before getting one as an adult, but here we are. The relationship that I have with Toad, because of the work that we have had to put in with him, is unmatched. I would not give that up for anything. I am so thankful that he thinks that the sun shines from me. He and Dog Dad, not just me, but Dog Dad is his person for sure. I am definitely the spare human for him. But I think that overall, it has changed the way that I think about owning a dog, the way that I interact with my dog, the way that I advocate for my dogs, in such a way that Ziggy has shown difference in his behaviors in a way that I can tell that both Ziggy and Toad trust me to ultimately keep them safe. And that is the biggest reward that I could ever want in owning a dog. It's not something that I ever realized would need to happen, but just the way that our family has changed to accommodate and really make sure that both Ziggy and Toad have the best lives that they deserve, that they want, that they can live, that we can give them, has been amazing to watch. And now this is me taking myself out of the family and kind of looking at all of the things that we have done, the education that we have found, the research that we have done, the learning that we have done, the want to do things the right way this time because it's going to benefit both of the dogs is just not something that I ever anticipated happening with our family. And that's a little bit sad for the first 2 years of Ziggy's life, but believe me, he had a wonderful first 2 years of his life. He just kind of ruled the roost, and that has changed. And I think that was a needed change. Everyone's happier. Everyone's happier now that there is a hierarchy in the family, and you know, there are schedules and things like that. I do think that we could talk about reactivity for hours and hours and hours and hours. We just hit the tip of the iceberg with what we talked about in this podcast, with our struggles and the growth that we've made and the things that we've done differently since we've added in reactive dogs to our household, the way that our lives have changed, the struggles that we face. There's so much to say on this topic. There's so much controversy on this topic. We definitely will revisit this topic in subsequent seasons so we can update you on the progress that we have had with all of our dogs. And I just hope that at the end of the day, you can listen to this and feel like you're not alone. You can listen to this and remember not to give up. You can listen to this and remember that training is not linear. Life is not linear. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be high wins and there's going to be low lows, and that's okay. And now you know that you have 4 people that also are going through a similar, I don't even really want to call it a struggle, but you can.
It's an obstacle. It's an
obstacle. That's a great way to put it.
There you go.
And you'll get past it. And, you know, not in the way that it will go away, but you will find out what works for your family and how to manage what you need to give your dogs the life that they deserve, as long as you try. And that's all anyone is asking. So thanks for tuning in to listening to us talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what we've gone through. And we're just hoping that we can be a safe space for you to know that it's okay.
Okay, so we're going to go into our Q&A segment. The first question is, how do you feel about the success of your podcast thus far?
I'm happy with it. I think it's just exciting that we did it. I mean, I'm proud of us that we did it. I had, to be honest, no expectations because I didn't want to make myself feel sad if anything happened. But there has been so much work that has gone into this, and I am so proud of us that I think that if we were the only 4 people that listened to it, which thankfully we're not, I would still be proud of us.
I think I had no expectations because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So I think it's since we now know what to expect, I'm happy about it. And of course, always encouraging people to listen. That's number 1.
I feel like we've gotten so much positive feedback from all of our listeners. And so that's been one of like the highlights for me, is just like hearing people enjoy what we're doing, because like Nikki said, we have put so much work into this and we will continue to put so much work into this. So finally, like every time I publish the episode and then we go and check it in the morning and we're like, it's out, everyone is out, like it's live. It's like the best.
And then we refresh.
Yeah.
Like how many listeners?
And it's the best feeling because it's like you get to have your work and you know what you're about to publish. You know what you're putting out. And so when it gets published, it's like such a relief and such an exciting feeling all at the same time. And then we get the feedback from it, and it's just, it's so rewarding. So definitely happy with it
honestly, as well. That's honestly my favorite thing is the feedback. Like, well, you guys see it. I screenshot it and I put it in the group chat. And I was like, did you see what this one said? Like, I'm living for this. Like, I'm living. Like, one of our friends was giving like a play-by-play. Like they're listening to us and they're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe Nikki said that. Oh my goodness, I can't believe like Alexis felt that way. Oh my goodness, like Caroline, hilarious. Like just the feed, like the play-by-play of the episode that they were listening to. I love that. I love reading all your comments. I love
when you share it.
You ladies
like puts the biggest smile on my face when I see that someone has tagged us in their stories that they're listening.
For sure.
I love it so much. I'm just so thankful that other people did want to join our group chat, and we're so happy to have them.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Also, I want to point out for all the feedback that we got about mics, we have mics.
We have mics.
Tell us if you can tell. Let us know if the sound is better. We're trying.
So we do read and we do take in all of your feedback. I think all of you ladies hit it on the head with how you guys feel, because I feel the same way. I'm so proud of us. I love our supporters. I love their feedback. I love it. Makes my heart happy.
It almost feels like the podcast is interactive.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels really weird to say, but we take the comments and the messages, and when you answer our question boxes, we take those, we collate them, we put them in a note, and we talk about them in our Monday meetings. And then we make adjustments to make it better for everyone. And there are things that you guys notice that I would never notice, and I'm so thankful for it. There are things that people have asked us to talk about that I never would have thought that people wanted to hear me talk about. So it does feel interactive, which is so fun.
I agree with that. It's just a good thing. Our second question is kind of fun. What would be the first thing you do if you won the lottery?
I would buy acres and acres and acres of land and adopt me some dogs. I would be the crazy dog lady with tons of land, build them like their own little houses. Hire like somebody to take care of them. So like they're that lady all on TikTok, like pampered.
That has the house in the back that's just for the dogs.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That would definitely be in my lottery plan, but I would first pay off my mortgage, my parents' mortgage, and my brother's mortgage, and get rid of all of our student loans first. And then fun things would come.
My first thing would be definitely paying off my mortgage, and then probably finding, so I'm in a group on Facebook of mast cell cancer dog parents. And I would probably find somebody who wants to put their dog through chemo and cannot afford it and pay for it, because I
love that.
It was a really hard decision for me to spend the money on Buster, and I don't want that to have to be for everybody. So I would try to help at least one person out with that.
I love
that.
Y'all are so like practical, and I'm like, I would buy a zoo. Like, I would go buy a zoo, and I would build a house next to the giraffes, and I would live in it. That's what I would do that. Or practically, I would probably go back to school. But that's like, no one cares about that. I mean, for sure.
I think
Caroline's moving.
Live with the giraffes, girl. Do your
realistically.
I want to. It's a dream.
I think realistically, the actual first thing that I would do would ask the person that's telling me that I won the lottery how I can keep it a secret. I don't want to go on the news. I don't want my name out there. I don't even want to move from my current house too fast, because I don't want people to know. So that would probably be realistically the actual very first thing that I would do. And honestly, I might even pay off those mortgages anonymously and not even tell my family that it happened. My mom's listening to this. Sorry, Mom.
Wired the money. Weirdly. Maybe they got the wrong account number.
Yeah, just don't question it.
It's free money.
Yeah.
There's a trend on TikTok, and it's like, if I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell anybody, but there would be signs. My sign would be waking up, and my morning picture with my coffee would be of a giraffe in the background.
Oh,
That's the sign.
100%.
There are places that you can make that
It'll
happen.
be not even, it'll be in the window. It'll be the giraffe's head in the window.
Yes. With their long,
With my
like, black
morning coffee
tongues.
and my 3 dogs. Yes, that's that would be the sign. I would be living with the giraffes.
Skylar would be really happy about the giraffe.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of reactivity.
She'd be like, what is this? Why is it coming through my
Mom,
window?
have you lost your mind?
Big dog. Big dog.
With a very long neck. An abnormally long
Confused.
neck. Oh, man.
I love it.
These were great questions this week. The first one was a listener submit, so we're so thankful for that. We want more of those. So let us know what you want to hear from us. We definitely are open books. You can find us on Pawfectly Unleashed on Instagram, slide into our DMs. Everything will stay anonymous, so no worries about that. But we want to know what you want to hear from us. So thank you so much for tuning in this week, listening to us talk about all things reactivity, and we can't wait to see you next Monday. Bye.
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 You can find us on Instagram at Pawfectly Unleashed. Head over there. Let us know what you want to hear. Ask us questions. Everything will stay anonymous, so no worries about that. You can stream our podcast at Pawfectly Unleashed on Spotify and YouTube, coming soon to Apple Podcasts.